Welcome to the Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition, where we keep you up to date with everything going on in the ColdFusion community. We'll share the latest news on events, releases to engines, frameworks, libraries, and tools, as well as spotlighting quality content from the community. Good morning. Welcome back to another Modernize or Die podcast, CFML News Edition. Today is May 5th, 2020. So I'm Gavin Pickin, a software consultant for Ortus Solutions, and I'm joined by Brad Wood.
Gavin Pickin's sidekick, whose microphone was muted. How you doing? You sound excited, Gavin. Like more excited than normal. What's going on?
Well, it's a crazy week. This week we're doing Into the Box online. So we're supposed to all be flying down to Houston this week and doing our workshops. If it was no pandemic, I'd be in the middle of teaching my workshop right now. We're supposed to have 2 days of workshops and 2 days of conference, but this week we're doing it all online. So it's kind of exciting, kind of nerve-wracking a bit too.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that we're not getting to do this in person. I was just thinking the other day that, we'd be in Houston last night, eating at the hotel bar, working on presentations or something, but instead we're all hunkered down in our houses, sheltering from the impending doom. So something like that.
Yep. So, it's going to be a busy week for sure. So first of all, let's just thank our sponsors, Ortus Solutions. And guess what? They have this conference this week. So Into the Box 2020 conference is online this week. You can still register now, and you can watch the sessions live or watch the recordings later. So we try to make it pretty flexible for you. It's 2 days and 2 tracks, and it's all online, and that is Thursday and Friday this week. So if you don't want to register, we understand. So we will be streaming the keynotes live on day 1 and day 2. But if you are listening to this podcast right now, you must be to hear me. But we'll give you a discount. So if you want to register, you can actually use the code podcast10 to save 10% off your ticket. If you go to intothebox.org and register, you can save 10%. So if you guys are listening later, it may still work after the fact if you just want to buy the recordings, but do it sooner than later. And then you can check out the Into the Box and see Brad and myself and all the other Ortus members, as well as a whole bunch of community speakers as well. So
there you go.
Yeah. So we also want to thank our Patreon supporters. We have a new Patreon supporter, Jonas Eriksson, and so now we're almost at 50% funded for our Modernize or Die podcast and on Patreon. So patreon.com/Ortus Solutions. You can pick a package to help financially support the podcast, the open source movement, and everything else we do. So thank you everyone who is supporting us already. And if you want, like I said, patreon.com/Ortus Solutions. You can find out more. So now we've got the obligatory thank yous out of the way. Like I said, the first big news event obviously is Into the Boxes this week.
Into the box.
So it is Central Time, so those of us on the West Coast are going to have to get up pretty early, especially if we're doing the keynote.
Doesn't the world run on Central Time? I thought that's what we'd all decided.
Yeah, sorry, you're wrong.
Luis is in Central Time and I'm in Central Time. That's
all that matters, right?
Yeah. Who else cares?
Yeah. So, so Thursday and Friday, 9 a.m. Central to I think 4 or 5 p.m. Central. So if you guys... basically, lots of sessions there. You'll have 2 streams going, so you can pick from one room or the other. So 2 tracks, and it's 2 days. There'll even be lunchtime presentations, I believe, from a couple of the sponsors as well. So,
is someone going to bring me lunch, like, to my house? That would be awesome.
Sorry, the costs do not include delivery. We did try to work it out with DoorDash, but
that would have been
unreliable.
Awesome, but quite expensive.
Yeah, so probably not as expensive as the real meals at a conference, but you never know.
How much would it cost to DoorDash, like, Panera sandwiches or something to like every single conference attendee, so it all arrived right on time?
It would be a nightmare to organize, but
well, I'd make you do it.
Yeah, and I would pass it on too. So the cool thing about the Into the Box is, like I said, we got those live streams for free. We got all the sessions. It's going to be a great conference. Watch it online.
You get to see every single session because they're all recorded, right? So choose the ones you want live, watch the rest of them whenever you have a chance, right?
Yep. And we're also been working on something top secret. So if you watch the keynote, you'll find out a little more about this virtual conference. The team's been working hard behind the scenes to work on a virtual conference setup. And so instead of just being on Zoom rooms, there'll be something else to be able to go log into to talk to people in rooms and do other things. So we're trying to set it up so it's all virtual, one of those VR type conferences. So it's not quite full virtual reality, but they're trying to add a little bit to make it a little more special. So we'll talk about that at the keynote. We're actually getting a presentation on it after this to find out a little more about it too. So even we don't know all the goodies just yet.
Nice. Now, unless you mentioned it, I saw you dangling some little carrot on Twitter about a discount code for people who hadn't signed up yet, maybe?
Yep. So podcast 10 is a 10% off discount code. So if you go register, it'll ask you for a promotion code if you have one. If you type in podcast 10, you will get that 10% discount. So save yourself some money, sign up, and away we go.
Nice. Oh
Cool.
my gosh. I just saw a tweet that we totally should feature. It's some guy who wrote a PHP library that looks like CF Dump. Oh.
It's in our list.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's
so
okay.
Cute. So cute when the PHP developers try to be like us.
Yeah, I know. It's the person who tweeted it was Orangeable, and I'm like, wait, was that a CF developer that had to switch? The Orangeable sounds familiar, so I'm wondering.
Sure it was.
Yeah, so
okay, all right, we'll get to it. I can't help but like be perusing Twitter like you talk. I have to multitask.
Yeah, we noticed because I already mentioned the podcast discount code earlier, but you didn't see that.
Yeah, I wasn't listening.
Yep, that's the way. Brad never listens to anybody but himself, and
Sorry,
even then. So we are making a lot of announcements later on this week because the Ortus team right now is, merging pull requests. We're finalizing new versions of this and that and pushing everything out in a mad rush for Into the Box. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and one of the things that we actually already blogged about is TestBox version 4 has been released, so 4.0.0. And like I said, I know there's a lot of things being released right now, but if you want to find out more about TestBox 4, you can go check that out on the ortussolutions.com blog. But I know most of the rest of them were holding off until the keynotes. That one snuck out a little early, so I already downloaded it and started using it on a project, so it's got some nice little features.
We both pasted the link at the same time.
Oh, we're awesome.
Double link. It's a double link Tuesday, folks.
Yep, so it's got it is a major release. There's quite a few things in there, some bug fixes and whatever as well. So definitely check that out.
Now, it is a major version bump. It looks like the only compatibility changes are just the ColdFusion engine. So usually when a library goes from one major version to another, that means, like it's not safe just to upgrade. There's probably some things that might be broken, or I say broken on purpose, change compatibility. It looks like the main differences are we've dropped support for Lucy 4.5. It's been years now since all development's been on Lucy 5, and Adobe ColdFusion 11, which I think might be a fairly big one. There's a decent amount of people still on that. So we've added so much new stuff with the asynchronous stuff and the just language features that we're using. We've just got to keep moving off these old versions of the CF engines because they hold us back. So to be able to push the libraries forward, we've been getting more aggressive about dropping it. And we know there's always somebody out there using, a layer 4.5. Oh, sorry, I mean Lucy 4.5. But it's just something to keep in mind. So if you're already on Lucy 5, Adobe 2016 or higher, it looks like it should be a pretty straightforward update process for you. If you're still on the old versions, guess what? You get to use Lucy 3 until you modernize or die.
Yep. So, they had a couple of nice features in there. TestBox output utilities, so you can output to console now and stuff like that.
I saw those. Those are nice. See, I ran into that when we were doing the Code Wars site, because you're writing your test from inside of a browser based proxy to a console, and you want to be able to debug stuff, but your code that you want to debug is oftentimes inside of a different CFC than the actual test case itself. So those nice little debug methods you get from TestBox don't exist. So I noticed that in the release stuff yesterday. The
Yep.
request dot testbox dot, and then it has those little helpers. That way, anywhere inside the request, you can tap into it. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah. No, I definitely like that feature. Pretty cool. So,
Luis has a good idea every once in a while, I guess, right?
yep. And he's also got the mock data stuff in there too. So we're doing a lot of testing with mock data, and it shows you how to generate a lot of
Oh, is he
data for
baking
you.
mock data in now?
You didn't read the blog post?
No, I've only skimmed it. I've been too busy, man. Into the box is sucking all my time.
Yep. Mock data CFC is now a
Yeah,
dependency
look,
to
we've now
TestBox
included.
4.
Oh, that's
Yep.
nice. Luis uses the mock data CFC all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. We have like a project in development right now, and the entire database uses mock data CFC to basically seed it for all the developers, so we don't have to worry about adding all the records to everything. He just
Yeah,
has a
I mean,
script. He
you
just
say like,
generates it.
give me a name, give me an email, give me a password, whatever, and it just generates all the data for you.
Yep, and it gives you is active, one of, true,
Nice.
false. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. So definitely really powerful, and now it's included directly in TestBox. So cool. Now, we have a upcoming webinar from John Farrar in the ColdFusion Community Education 2020 and beyond. It's their second webinar. It's going to be hosted tonight, May 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so if you're looking to basically try and help the community build up education and do something other than Adobe and Ortus as far as education stuff, they're offering that. And so if you go to the Slack on the CFML Slack channel, they have a channel now called community_courses, and so they're trying to make that somewhere you guys can discuss options. And the plan is basically try and help build build software and projects for educational purposes that maybe go a little further than just ColdFusion, tying into like DevOps and tying into frontier languages, and try and make it more one-stop shop for training. So sounds like a cool initiative, and if you want to find out more, you can join the discussion in the webinar tonight. And in case they missed it, last week you had a webinar too, right, Brad?
I did. I did, in fact, have a webinar.
And so CommandBox 5 obviously was released not too long ago, and so what did you cover in the webinar?
I covered what's new in CommandBox 5. Which I've been talking a lot about lately with
Yep.
the Screencast series that we've gone through. So it's just kind of a quick, I say quick, it was an hour long, overview of all the stuff in CommandBox 5, what you need to know, the features, how they work, including the Lucy extension management and the new libraries that we've updated, starting, Lucy light servers and snapshot builds, all that juicy stuff is in there. So we have the recording posted. If you want to punish yourself with an hour of me talking, go for it.
Well, after this hour, they'll probably want another hour because no one can get enough of you, Brad. But if you do want more of Brad, he also did release the last of his screencast series of what's new in CommandBox 5. So now all 10 videos in that series have been released. The last one released last Thursday was using Lucy Light servers and snapshot builds. So now all 10 are being released. It's a great series. It's nice to have all that content popping out, and I mean, I know I've watched a few of them just to try and make sure I understand it. A couple of them I had to watch a couple times.
I'd
So
record a couple of them a couple times.
yeah, I'm obviously the server stat optimization with Docker was really important. So trying to get on top of that, and yeah, I want to learn more about the Lucy Light, and I need to get my Fusion Reactor hooked up for my CLI. So a lot of great web screencasts there. So go check those out. We have the latest one linked in there, and there's a playlist as well that you're sharing.
Yep, I just put the whole playlist link in, and I'll add that to the show notes because I don't think you had that one in there.
Cool. So next on the list, just a reminder, the State of the CF Union 2020 survey is still going on. We still need your help. Please definitely go take that survey. Make sure you vote for our podcast because we want some love as well. And
Vote early and often.
Yep, and then there are partial results out already, which is pretty interesting. Like you said, almost 500 people have already responded, so a lot of great info.
Yeah, I was going through the partial results yesterday, building the keynote slides for Into the Box for the CommandBox portion. And I was pulling out some statistics, some juicy statistics. So, talk about those in a couple days.
Sounds good. Okay, so next on the list we have conferences, and we've already talked about Into the Box 2020. So just for those of you that didn't tune in right away, the conference tickets are $199, but if you use podcast 10, you can get $20 off, get 10% off if you go to intothebox.org to register. We have our ITB swag available at our online store. If you go to ortusolutions.com/shop, you can see all that. There's some pretty cool looking shirts and stuff there. Another great conference shirt. Because everyone's not there, if you want the shirt, you'll have to order it, unfortunately. But hope you understand. You can also get last year's videos and the year before. So in 2018 and 2019, they're all $9.99 for each package. You can get that at Vimeo as well. So we'll put those links up in the chat. If you want to get ready for this week, you can watch conference videos all week long.
Get nothing done.
Exactly. Just like us. We're just preparing for the conference. Trying to keep those customers happy too.
Admit it. You're not going to get anything done. Just give into it. Be useless and just watch videos all week long.
Yeah.
You know you want to.
I was watching videos yesterday too, because I'm doing one of my sessions is CB Streams, and that's the one that Luis gave last year.
That's why you were watching the VinCat videos, right?
Yep. And so I've been watching VinCat, which is Luis's idol.
He's awesome.
And so
he's at the Dev Nexus conference that Luis and I go to every year, and he's one of the best speakers. He's a Java developer along with all kinds of stuff, but he packs like 3 hours of content into every hour that he talks, and he cracks funny jokes. I don't even know how he.
I know. I was surprised. He's a pretty funny guy.
Luis's async talk for Into the Box is like full VinCat, man. It's all pure like code samples, all like just running as he types. Luis is totally inspired. It'd be cool.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting too, because the conference talks at VinCat he was talking about how he hated Java. He was anti-Java for the longest time until they released streams and completable futures in Java 8. And so that's basically what I'm talking about as streams, and then Luis is talking about completable futures because we've migrated those over. So if something like that can keep VinCat from leaving Java, then maybe it's hope to make ColdFusion even better. So I've been watching those videos, watching the 2019 videos and stuff, and there's a lot of great content. We got a lot of Ortus speakers, a lot of speakers from the community. Intothebox.org has all the information you need. It's this week, so definitely go check it out. We also have some other conferences popping up around. We've found a few more pop up. May is conference month, I guess. Open Source 101 online conference is Tuesday, May 12th, so that's next week. So Ray Camden is speaking at that one. So some of you may know him from previous conferences.
A virtual one-day open source tools and process conference for developers.
Yep, so they've got a lot of good content there. They had a bunch of free tickets, but they're all gone. So if you want to buy one now, they're just $19. But that's just a one-day conference, so pretty interesting.
Format includes TED-style keynote talks. I mean, I've seen TED Talks, but what exactly is a TED-style keynote talk?
Not sure. Maybe it means no slides, just talking. I don't know.
But they have pictures in TED Talks.
I
love TED Talks, but I mean, I didn't know they were necessarily any different from someone just standing up on the stage talking about something interesting. I always thought TED Talks were just more interesting than boring talks. Maybe that's what they mean. Dan, VinCat is VENKAT, and I can't pronounce his last name, but it starts with SUB. Yeah, there you go. If you Google VENKAT, you will find his Twitter handle, which is this right here. Oop, and look, I've somehow logged in as Ortus Solutions now.
Yep, so Open Source 101 is next Tuesday, May 12th. Microsoft Build is also happening May 19th and 20th. And so it's got a lot of great community members and Microsoft developers talking there. Scott Hanselman is pretty amped up about his keynote that he's been working on. But as they say, it's for developers by developers. As developers, we come together to help the world solve new challenges. Sharing knowledge and staying connected is more important than ever. So join the community to learn, connect, and code. and expand your skill set today. And it's free. It's going to be a 48-hour digital experience. So what they're doing is actually doing certain things live. I think they're doing the keynote 2 or 3 different times in different time zones, so it'll match whatever time zone you'll get it live. And then they have a lot of the other sessions that are recorded and then replayed later. So basically, no matter what time zone you're in, there's basically some Microsoft build content going on, either original or repeat of previously recorded sessions. But it looks like it's just the whole week. Basically in the middle of the week, there's just 2 days, 48 hours, lots of content. So if you go to mybuild.microsoft.com, you can register for that one. And that's right in the middle of Adobe ColdFusion Developer Week.
So I just found Ray Camden's talk for that Open Source 101. The title's called Writing the Darn Docs. That sounds like a very Ray Camden talk.
Yeah.
He's big on documentation.
Yep, exactly. So Microsoft Build is the 19th through the 20th, and then Adobe Developer Week is the 18th through the 22nd. So Microsoft Build's right in the middle of the Adobe Developer Week. And this is another free online conference put on by Adobe. So thank you, Adobe, for doing that. And it basically brings all the sessions and speakers from CF Summit East that was canceled due to Corona, and basically bring it to you there. So their format's a little different. Instead of being a 1 day or 2 day conference, it's a 5 day conference with just 2 sessions a day. There's a morning session and an afternoon session, and so that way you can get some work done around them. They're early and late. That way you can match your time zones. So you should be able to see both of them, and those are available. I'm going to post the link in the chat because it's a pretty long URL here, but you can register for that. Or if you go to coldfusion.adobe.com, you'll go to the Adobe portal, and there's a big link to go register for it there.
A big link, not a small link.
No, it's big. It's very big. It's hero-sized.
Hero-sized, something like that.
Yep. We also have DockerCon live on May 28th. So that's going to be 3 different streaming channels that you can jump between. They're doing the pre-recorded route, so everything's pre-recorded and released, and then the speaker is actually in the chat answering questions while his recording plays on. And basically...
That's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of people say that's the way every online conference is doing it these days. Not every.
Not into the box.
Yeah.
We're behind the curve, I guess.
Yeah, not every, but they say majority of them are doing it that way, so that way the video is smooth and there's no issues and there's no problems, and then they can have more time to answer questions and whatnot.
You know, it's funny. That's actually what my church does for our live stream now. We pre-record it the day before just so all the technical glitches are done, and then we all can just sit and chat while it happens. So. Yeah. I guess that is kind of a thing now.
Yep. So as long as you don't pretend that it's live, people are usually okay with it. Because that's what a lot of webinars are. Marketing people, they'll have a pre-recorded one and they just play it. And people are okay with that if you're not trying to make it look like it's live.
Yeah, just admit we recorded it, but we're here live for questions. Yeah, I get it.
Do an intro, do an outro or something, and that's usually pretty good. So
DockerCon. So how many sessions is this?
It's 1 day. It's basically three streams at once. So there's probably like about 24 different sessions, 8 sessions in a day, something like that. It's docker.com/DockerCon to get more information. A lot of big...
How many sessions on Docker Swarm will there be?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I'm seeing 0 hits when I search the web page. If I search for Kubernetes, it's everywhere. Okay, there's 2 hits, but
yeah. So I've been to DockerCon a couple of years ago. They had 5 or 6 different tracks in 2 or 3 days. So jamming it all into 1 day, it's going to be interesting. But it should be good.
How do you get in this? Okay, look at this. How to create PHP development environments with Docker. How to build Node apps with Docker. Best practices for Python applications in Docker. Where's the CFML apps in Docker? Where is it, DockerCon?
Did you submit it to Eric or... I didn't.
No, I didn't even know if that had called for speakers. Well, we need to submit that. We need to be like, how to slay baby unicorns with Docker. I don't know. We gotta inject ColdFusion into these because not every other language, lots of other languages get love, but never ColdFusion.
Yep. Unless they're using it to write a CF dump in PHP.
Yeah. They want to be us, but they don't want to let us present. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand.
And so, just a note about Adobe Developer Week, ColdFusion Developer Week from Adobe. Sorry, they are recording the sessions. They'll make them available on the portal afterwards, as Charlie mentioned in the chat. For those in the chat who aren't in the chat, sorry. And also, Adobe has CF Summit West. The dates are October 28th and 29th at the Mirage Hotel. cfsummit.adobeevents.com is available for you to find out a little more information about it. And I'm sure they'll give us more information as we get closer to the time.
We still haven't seen any public information on this though, right? Other than just them updating their website.
Yeah, I mean,
no call for speakers.
The portal links out to it and stuff too. So yeah, so we haven't found out anything else. We're gonna harass the Adobe team a little more and find out more, and maybe we'll find out more at the Adobe ColdFusion Developer Week. I think the keynote they might give us more information on it. So I'm sure they're in a holding pattern as of CF Camp. Same thing, no details as yet.
I'm just thinking if they are gonna be doing it, the call for speakers is probably gonna be a little rushed at this point. But interesting.
Maybe they'll just use the tried old true ones. So yeah, I really think everything's on hold until we get some more information about this COVID-19 and everything else. So we'll let you know as soon as we know. Okay, let's get into some blog content. So we'll start with the Into the Box corner, because I know you guys are so happy to hear us talk about that. So we have a Into the Box blogs post series on Meet the Speaker. So we have basically a Meet the Speaker, Vil de Bruin, Sean Oden, Tony Junkes, Michael Bourne, and Jorge Reyes, in addition to we had several that we posted last week as well. And so they're all available there on intothebox.org or on ortussolutions.com. So if you want to find out more about those speakers, find a little more about the session, definitely go check that out. We also had a blog post about Fusion Reactor joining as a silver sponsor for Into the Box 2020 as well. So thank you, Fusion Reactor, for sponsoring it. And it's good that all our free advertising for you, because we keep talking about how amazing you are every week, is paying off. They must have heard.
I just put a link to the intothebox.org/blog where you can find all the blog posts Gavin just mentioned.
Yep. So a lot of good stuff for Into the Box, but there's other stuff happening apparently in the world of CFML as well. So
what?
Maybe we'll talk about some of that.
Who authorized other stuff to happen?
Well, we can't stop the PHP guys. So Orangeable. So
here's the tweet.
Here's the tweet. So let me actually pull it up, and I'll share my screen for those of you who are watching. So PHP Devs, he's created a quick example modeled after the ColdFusion CFML CF dump tag that outputs your data in a clean, easy-to-read format. It's up on GitHub. It's been a great replacement for var dump and helped me a ton. So, yeah. So it's cool. They've got objects, structs, booleans, so pretty nice. I mean, they copied the colors and everything. They didn't do Lucy style because you'd hurt your eyes.
Well, Lucy does support the Adobe CF dump. You have to set it to like classic or whatever. You don't want the orange. But yeah, it's really cute when the PHP developers can try to be like us. I mean, we've had CF dump for what, like since like ColdFusion 4 or something.
I don't know. And at least it's been at least 23 years.
It's like the year 2020, and they finally somebody wrote a dump library. I mean, unless you're gonna tell me you already get this other one on the show notes. I just saw, I don't see it somewhere earlier on Twitter today. I mean, who was it? Who was talking about it? Somebody somewhere that I spend too much time on too many social media platforms. I have no idea what I read anymore. Somebody was pointing out how the next version of PHP is going to have like annotations, basically.
Yeah, Michael Bourne responded to that on Twitter.
Yeah. And again, it was like, oh my gosh, is PHP like 15 years behind ColdFusion still? Like, welcome to 2020, PHP developers. We've been doing this thing called annotations for a long time. Mm-hmm. In fact, Java, for crying out loud, is that it?
Exactly.
If I can't rib PHP developers, I don't have anything left in life. Well, other than ribbing Node developers, but I mean that's a given. So.
Yeah. Oh, sorry guys. There's another Into the Box post. TerraTech did a little write-up of 2019's Into the Box and what to expect in 2020. A little summary of what's going on. So on the TerraTech site, there's a blog there. So I'll share that in the in the chat. I thought they were all gone. Okay, so this is an interesting one from Ben Adele. He has one about the effect of file I/O on performance experimentation in Docker and Lucy. So this one is pretty interesting. I'll give you the breakdown. So basically, what he was doing is generating a PDF document with a whole bunch of image tags. Really simple. If you look at what it's doing, it's just spitting out a bunch of images and create a PDF from it. But the problem he was having, it was taking 15 seconds to do this. So he was like, well, maybe I should take advantage of that parallel option in Lucy that allows you to run some things in parallel. And so what he thought he would do was pull down all the images locally, so basically pull them all down and then get them all set up and then use the PDF and then use the local file. So he had to use the file / so it didn't actually go out and try and access it using the HTTPS or HTTP. But what he ran into was it was taking 47 seconds to do that. So it was downloading it was actually only taking like 10 seconds, but it was taking almost 47 seconds to make the PDF. So he's a little confused. And then he went through and took Docker out of the equation, just did CommandBox locally, and he got it working in 3 seconds. What? So he was, as he says, holy chickens.
Ben's favorite exclamation, holy chickens.
Yep, so, he basically starts talking about Docker file I/O and, and the frustration with, well, if Docker's meant to fix the whole it works on my machine thing, how can we test it and trust it with a file I/O? And
by wrapping everything in a layer of abstraction, which actually is a Venkat reference. What do programmers do? They wrap things in a layer of abstraction.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing with Docker, there's a bunch of different drivers for a bunch of different, drives, different hardware, and so, just like anything, the software isn't always the same. And having an extra software interface in between it can get in the way. It tries to make it consistent as far as how you interface with it, but doesn't mean it's going to be the same performance. And that's why people sometimes will run Docker in VMs, and other people will run Docker straight on bare metal. So they don't want to have that extra layer of software between it. And so I understand this. I know there's some interesting things with like the different drivers, and there's different you can get different driver types to try and get different speeds from network drives.
So did he? I actually hadn't even read this post yet. I've been too busy this week. Did he actually discover specifically what the slowdown inside of Docker was? And to answer your question, Charlie, Ben did mention the local URL note, but he said that even when he used it, he found Lucy would still continue to make HTTP requests.
So I'm wondering if Lucy doesn't use it, maybe?
That could be a bug in Lucy where it doesn't respect the local URL attribute, to be honest.
Yeah, so we need to maybe have a look at that. Yep. And so he was just saying that he didn't get to the bottom of why the file I/O is different. But yeah, I wonder if you spin it up in different VMs and stuff, how it would behave differently, Windows versus Mac. And I know that John Farrar made a comment about the Windows sub-Linux systems and stuff, and 10 may be different. I know it's different depending if you're running real Docker, if you're running Docker, Docker desktop, and a lot of different things that go into it. So really interesting.
Be interesting to look at the Fusion Matcher profiler. Like, anytime you have HTTP requests that just seriously slows something down, it always sort of reeks of some sort of, like delay in like DNS resolution or something weird like that. But it can be very tricky to troubleshoot when you're wrapped inside of all these layers of Docker.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Just downloading the images took 10 seconds onto the Docker file I/O. So, and that would be another thing to check. Was he mounting the drive in via a mount, or was he copying the files in and then looking in the copy?
Because if doing Docker for Mac. See, I've run into a lot of issues. In fact, somebody just brought one of them up this morning that I hadn't looked at in years on Windows, where I'll have weird performance issues, with like Vagrant-based mapped drives on Windows. It's kind of frustrating how many things can go wrong.
Yep, it definitely is. So, yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, I wonder because I know that if you're doing a file mount, it's very different than if you're just copying the files inside the Docker image, and maybe that would be a solution because he's not needing them after. So I wonder if he did that. Yeah, and as Charlie said, or he may have been using Docker volumes, which may have their own impact, and they do, depending if it's the different type of volume mount. Volumes or volume mounts is definitely different. So interesting. We have another.
Very interesting.
Yep. Speaking of Fusion Reactor, we have a blog post from them, how to find memory leaks in your Java web applications. So this is obviously Java web applications, but some of the same information in here will be useful to you. So we wanted to share that.
By Nick Fluitt.
Yep. Okay. So we also had another video live stream from Matthew Clemente last week. So CommandBox VS Code extensions in CF format, learning by trial and error. And it sounded like there was more error than trial. His comment said
sometimes it's more like that.
Yeah. He said he had 30 or 40 minutes of just debugging.
Tonight I'm going to be
just debugging his Java environment setup. So that's no fun.
Well, that's gotten trickier lately. I swear, with every new release of Java, something new and amazing inside Lucy breaks. It's like an ongoing hell.
Yeah, but I really appreciate him sharing those, and so if you guys haven't checked them out, go look at them for sure. There's a lot of great content on. He's working with CommandBox and commands, and yeah, it's really
and I think in this episode of his live stream, he was checking out the CommandBox VS Code extension, which we just released, and the CF format tool.
Yep,
which is pretty
really cool. Yeah. We've done some integrations with our CI now, so it'll automatically throw chickens at you if you haven't formatted your code on chicken.
I like that. I mentioned a second ago with new Java versions. I should probably tweet something about this. A bunch of people this last couple of weeks have all been updating, I think oftentimes automatically without realizing it, to Java 11 update 7. And that has caused no end of troubles with CommandBox, or at least the version of Lucy that's in CommandBox right now. So I should probably throw that out there. It's weird, null pointer exception errors is kind of annoying. I don't know what's causing it, but if you're using CommandBox at all and you get weird null pointer exception errors when you're just trying to start up CommandBox, check and see if you've updated to Java 7. If you're on Windows, some people it works, other people have problems. I think anyone on Mac or Linux, the update 7 of Java 11 has caused serious issues with the Lucy 5.3.4 version, which I have in CommandBox right now. So it's a bit of a mess right there. But I'm still stuck waiting for Lucy 5.3.6 to go stable so I can update CommandBox to use it. And I think that version of Lucy works, but I didn't even try to make statements like it does work because half the time there's something I didn't know about. So
yeah,
it has been a mess lately trying to find a correct version of Java and a correct version of Lucy that will play together without having one issue or another.
Yeah, it's frustrating. We need a nice super stable version that we can use for a long time, like 5.2.9 was. Sturdy 18-month run that we had with that was really awesome. Okay, we also had your blog post about what's new in CommandBox 5 using Lucy Lite servers and snapshot builds. So the last one in that little series, but pretty cool. I mean, if you guys are looking for some little Lucy Lite, definitely a cool little thing going on there.
Lucy Lite action.
And all your snapshot builds that breaks ForgeBox because there's so many versions.
Yeah. So I mentioned this in the webinar the other day. If you watch that screencast, just grab the link to it. If you watch this screencast, there's one thing I do in there that doesn't actually work on the stable version of CommandBox. There was a bug that I fixed on the bleeding edge, and I thought this was the beginning of the month that I recorded these screencasts. I thought that I would have CommandBox 5.1 released by the end of the month when the screencast went live. But it's not released because we've been finalizing stuff and waiting for Lucy to finally release 5.3.6 because I really don't want to push out Lucy 5.3.5. There's too many regressions. But anyway, the automatic installation of Lucy extensions when you ask CommandBox to install a Lucy extension, and CommandBox goes, "Oh, look, this is a Lucy server. I'll put it in the deploy folder for you." That doesn't work on Lucy Lite servers. due to it looking for an exact match on the name of the CF engine. So if you watch that podcast and you want to actually try everything in it, grab the bleeding edge version of CommandBox, which will hopefully be released sometime soon as 5.1. But I want to add the little note.
Very cool. Yeah, let's say it's pretty neat. I'm excited about all the Lucy Light stuff. We also had a tweet from this guy, Brad Wood. He's always talking.
He won't shut up.
Yep. So he's talking about how he replaced a 66-line bash script with 10 lines of CFML and a CommandBox task runner, and everything is easy to do in CFML.
It is. Now, to be fair, I don't know that I replicated like 100% of what the shell script did, but for my intents and purposes, I was able to do the equivalent of what I needed.
So that matters.
CFML. It is. I mean, it was the shell script was just, it was some basic stuff from inside of Docker containers. You know, reading files out of a directory, looping over them. You know, creating environment variables out of them. And yeah, I mean, it was just 10 lines of CFML. So in my case, I was working on a task runner already, and I needed some additional work done with environment variables. And instead of trying to run a shell script, I was like, well, I can do this in a few lines of ColdFusion code.
Yep, that was pretty neat. I remember you showing me that right as you tweeted it too. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, working on the mini box, huh?
Yes. That's a project I'm doing for a client right now, and I'm hoping to blog about it. But I'm actually using the mini box Docker images we talked about a couple weeks ago, or last week, or whenever the heck we talked about them, which are the ones Pete Freitag made. That is an entire Docker image with CommandBox Lite, fully optimized with Java, and it's only 78 megs, the entire Docker image. And anyone who's done Docker images with ColdFusion or Lucy knows that you can easily have a Docker image that's 500 megs, and if you're not careful, you can end up with a Docker image that's a gig. I mean, once you start adding like Java, and if you have CommandBox in the mix, you know, and Lucy can be very, you know, verbose, if you will, on the hard drive with all the OSGI bundles. With this mini box image, the whole stinking thing is 78 megs. And so I'm working on replacing scheduled tasks with just a mini box Docker image with a baked in task runner. And then you stick it out there in Docker Swarm, and you just fire it off as little one-off tasks. And it's so small, it's way easier to deploy. Anyway, I've been excited about it, but I'll try to blog about it once I finally get it working. I'm still kind of like knee deep in Docker Swarm CLI commands, trying to figure out just the exact, you know, syntax to run it and everything. But it's all coming together.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely excited about that. So we mentioned earlier, TestBox 4 is released, so we have that blog post there in the blog list, so you can check that out. And then next we have another one from Ben Adel, but this one's actually a pretty interesting one. Reading EXIF orientation and audio orienting images using Graphics Magic and Lucy. Now, if you've ever had someone upload an image from their phone or from their computer into a CMS or whatnot, dealing with rotation is a pain in the butt.
Dude, Hootsuite used to have this bug. I would take a picture on my phone, I would tweet it via the Hootsuite app, and the picture would always stinking be sideways, and I would look like an idiot, like I didn't know how to upload a picture.
So you rotate it, right? And then you upload it again, and it's still sideways.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's because the data is stored in that EXIF or whatever thing.
Yep. And so Ben has a little video too, which is nice. I like when he includes the video, especially for this visual stuff. It definitely helps. But yeah, so he talks about you know, how to deal with that and use Image Magic to make sure that it's, you know, always rotated the right way and not messed up, which, like I said, it's a big deal. It's a pain in the butt. I don't know how many times I've uploaded images and they're sideways. I rotate them, upload them again, and they're sideways again. And then I just basically copy and paste them into another document and upload them, and I'm like, oh, now it's fine. And then you got the whole issue is if you're caching on your server and you update the same image, you see the cached version, and then you got to wipe your cache. So just so you know, lots of fun. Ben talks about how to deal with that. So thanks, Ben, for that. Yeah, hopefully you can stop those issues, 'cause they're fun. So we also had a blog post from Martin on the Lucy blog, and this is something you tweeted about. basically Windows Terminal CommandBox love. So if you want to have CommandBox showing up inside your Windows terminal, you can add this little configuration in here, and then you can have your own little pop-up in here. So it'll open up its own tab, the right location. Pretty neat. So super simple, but really useful. Thanks for sharing that, Martin.
Yeah, it's a cool little post. I had actually done it recently myself on the Windows 10 new terminal preview app. I just wasn't cool enough to post how to do it online, so I'm glad they put that little guide up. I can't wait to update my main computer to Windows 10 so I can use the terminal app more. Unfortunately, I'm stuck on Windows 7. I have a motherboard on my main PC that's just old enough it won't support Windows 10, and I'm like, you're killing me. So eventually I need to waste a bunch of money on a new machine just so I can get off of this Windows 7 nonsense.
Yeah, right as Windows 7 come out, you can get Windows 10.
I know. I'm like the guy still using ColdFusion 9, you know.
That's me.
It's just Windows. I tried to upgrade it, I did, but I can't do it.
Yeah, I remember you trying a couple times and getting really mad. I'm like, work for me.
Well, the problem was Windows wasn't smart enough to tell you why you couldn't upgrade. Every time you would try, you just get this generic error that was like, didn't work. And after like dozens of times of trying, I finally went through a bunch of nonsense and realized my motherboard wasn't compatible. And I'm like, thank you, Windows installer, for sucking so much. You couldn't have like told me that in the error message. But you know, I expect too much from Microsoft, I guess.
Yeah. We also had a blog post from Zach Spitzer about client-side sorting for modern debugging template. So that's available in the 5.3.7. Wow, can't read. So basically that was merged in. So pretty good. Lots of little new features coming out to Lucy. So
Zach has done a lot of stuff with the debugging templates, so it's pretty cool. And so 5.3.7 is the current snapshot builds of Lucy. So 5.3.5 is stable, 5.3.6 is release candidate, 5.3.7 is the snapshot. There's always like 3 versions. Lucy's like juggling. They usually have 3 versions at play at all times.
Okay, so we also had a tweet from James Moberg where he was working on a ColdFusion app dealing with session cookies that didn't clear when he closed his Edge browser. He had to go in and basically disable the setting. So Microsoft Edge has a feature that says when you close your browser, the session cookies aren't cleared like every other browser. When you open it again, it continues where you left off.
So they basically redefined how cookies should work, and then they called it a feature.
Yeah. And
so what, from my understanding, you know, if you set like an expiration on a cookie, you know, this cookie lasts for a day, for a month, for a year, then, you know, the browser respects that. But if you set, we used to call them vapor cookies, you know, back when I first started doing ColdFusion. You know, you set a cookie that basically only exists as long as the browser window's open. So you close the browser, the cookie's gone. You know, and you would do that on really secure sites like, you know, banking websites where they didn't, you know, once you close the browser, you know, you weren't still logged in. So I appreciate Microsoft Edge trying to like help, you know, like, oh, let's just make all cookies keep persisting, but stop it. Like, slap their hands, like, quit it, Microsoft. Yeah. The developers use that kind of cookie for a reason, and it was so it would go away. Quit trying to be helpful and screwing stuff up. What was I just complaining about Microsoft 2 seconds ago? Expectations too high.
I was going to say, that's the first thing I've heard bad about Microsoft in a while. I mean, even people talking about Edge, the people saying Edge is better than it used to be, Chromium stuff, their dev tools are a lot better than it used to be.
Sure it is. I haven't used it.
Yeah, for sure. I understand. Well, that's our blogs, tweets, and videos of the week. Pretty good content in there. And then we have some jobs, too. So Get CFML Jobs has 24 ColdFusion positions from 19 companies across 17 locations in 5 countries. And we have 1 new job this week from there. It looks like a full-time ColdFusion developer in North Carolina. And that was posted on the 28th of April.
CAPGE Mini? How do you pronounce that?
I don't know.
Never heard of this company. They're a global leader in consulting.
Oh, Capgemini.
Oh, I was trying to put it mini, like Cage Mini or something.
No. It's got a P in it, so it's Capgemini.
Okay.
I've actually seen them. They are a world leader. They're all over the place. They have sponsor stuff at the rugby sevens when I go to see them.
Always the rugby connection. So
Yeah.
they use ColdFusion.
Apparently.
I'm reading through the job posting. Where do they actually talk about ColdFusion? What? The job posting has like 8 pages of information about their company, and then it just mentions ColdFusion as like a side note. All it says is you need to have excellent experience of web application development with ColdFusion, whatever that means. Wow, this was definitely written by the marketing manager, the HR manager, and not by another developer.
Interesting.
Well, there you go. If you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, full time, make it happen.
And we actually have a job posting from Ortus Solutions El Salvador.
What?
So if you can read this, you'll find out that we have a UI UX web designer that we're looking for. And so Edgardo is the one who's in charge of that listing, so you can email him.
Diseñador.
Yep.
Nice.
And so they're hiring. So
some reason I'm hearing like one of those cheesy ass seen on TV commercials. No, do you live in El Salvador? Are you looking for a job? Yes, that's me.
Exactly. So we're hiring. We got other posts coming up. We've been doing a lot of hiring, trying to expand that team down there. It's growing really nicely. Got a good group down there. And if you watch the Into the Box keynote, you'll find out a little more about our team as well.
That's correct.
Okay. So now we have the ForgeBox module of the week. And so I decided to share another one of my little modules I've been playing with. So this is the App Startup Reporter. And so basically what we did is we wanted to make sure that whenever one of our apps start up in whichever environment they're at, they send a bunch of information over to Sentry. So we know basically that the app is running and what is it running, and to try and keep track of things. Docker, sometimes you get a lot of stuff where an image will spin up and then it'll die, and so it'll start up again, and so you're not sure how often it's doing that. You can go through logs and everything, but
yeah, that's been a reoccurring problem with some of our clients on Docker, is just debugging the container after it's dead and gone, and we're like, wait a minute, what version of ColdFusion was it running? We don't know. It's already been cleaned off of the swarm.
Exactly.
So this kind of phones home every time it comes online.
Yep, and so the module determines various pieces of information about your app and then reports it to Sentry. It does require the Sentry module, which we've discussed before. Brad worked hard on that one. And it basically, you just configure ColdFusion for Sentry, and then you'll set up a bunch of these little helpers. So basically what it does, the module checks your app code for helper files or the OS itself to determine several pieces of information, and then reports it when it starts up. We use an interceptor after configuration load, so after it's set up, it reports to Sentry based on your ColdFusion Sentry settings. And basically right now what we do is we have it report your app version, we have it report your ColdFusion environment, your server host name, your box.json file content, and then we do a box dependency file, which is basically like running box list from the CLI. So that gives you a list of all your dependencies and which versions they are. Because your box.json shows you the Semver versions, but doesn't tell you the actual version that was installed. So the box dependency will help you with
We would have that problem sometimes where something wasn't working, and it would turn out it was because we had an outdated dependency that wasn't getting installed, but we didn't realize it until we put a bunch of debugging in. So it gives you kind of a whole snapshot of exactly what your server looked like when it booted up. That's nice.
Yep, and so there's different things like the version. We get this from a file called .version. That's the default for it, and you can basically add something like this to your CI build where it'll spit out the information into a .version file. You can also do scripts, box.json scripts, so when you do a bump patch or whatnot, you can output the version too. ColdFusion environment uses the get setting environment to figure that out. Server host name, it uses a couple of different things to get the host name there. So it basically runs down all the different pieces, but it's just a little module. Once it's installed, it'll do its thing behind the scenes. You don't have to do anything else. Like I say, just a couple of things you have to add to your CI script if you want to have versions, correctly showing. But nice little module. Definitely helped our customers out a lot. It's been very useful. So very cool. Okay.
VS Code hint, tip, and trick of the week?
Yep.
What do we got?
We got one recommended by David Levin. He's someone we've seen at some of the Ortus trainings before, and he emailed me saying, "Hey, I haven't seen you do this one. Maybe you should put this on your list." And I checked it out, and it was pretty cool. So it's path autocomplete. And so what this allows you to do is, as you start typing, include source or linking to different things, it'll automatically look through for paths. So it uses relative paths, absolute paths. Working in the workspace, it can look absolute paths the file system.
So the relative paths are relative to where the file is that you're editing?
Or the root of the site. So depending on if you're ColdFusion, like ColdBox app, and your layouts are deeper, you can put a little configuration inside VS Code for that project, and it'll know that // is actually the root of the project. They have aliases you can set up and everything. You can also use exclusions, so you can you can also use npm packages, and has automatic suggestions for the folders and everything. But if I show you
even supports like tilde paths that are relative to the user folder. That's kind of handy because a lot of times you write file paths in your code, but a lot of times the IDE doesn't do auto completion at that kind of level. So I assume this just checks for any time you're typing a string that looks like it might be a path.
Yeah, so I mean it works in for your imports, and I believe if we scroll down a little bit here, does it have any more animated GIFs? No, just that one.
These docs need more animated GIFs.
Yeah, I know that David emailed me and put a couple of screenshots from using it as well, and that was pretty neat. So
every time I look at a VS Code project, it seems to be a requirement that every VS Code plugin has to have animated GIFs. It always makes me think of one of Ray Camden's talks that I think he may have done for one of our events, in which he made a point of saying that an animated GIF is not documentation. I think his point was you can have an animated GIF, that's fine, but don't let that be a replacement for documentation. Like you just throw the GIF up, you're like, I'm done. I think of that every time I see a VS Code extension because they all have an animated GIF on them.
Yep, for sure. So John Farrar just jumped in and said, "What did I miss?" Pretty much everything, John. But thanks for joining us.
We just handed out the 1,000% discount code for Into the Box. We pay you back 900%. Oh, you missed it. That's what John Farrar gets for coming in slightly late to the live podcast.
Yep. So the path autocomplete, lots of options, lots of flexibility too, configuration options. So it looks like a really great little project. So thanks, David, for recommending it. And it's almost got 500,000 installs, so obviously it must be doing something right.
500,000 installs can't be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
good reviews too. We'll put that on there. But okay. So next on our list, Patreon supporters. So
Patreon.
We've got a new supporter too.
We do.
Yep. Jonas Eriksson is our newest Patreon supporter.
And I recognize the person's name from the ColdFusion community.
Yep. I think he's from Sweden. That definitely looks like a Swedish name, right?
Well, if you Google it, it shows up as a Swedish referee, but I don't know if that's the same guy.
Yeah, but
again, add ColdFusion to the Google search.
Yeah, but thanks again to all our Patreon supporters. Yeah, basically without you, it would be a lot harder to get our open source projects moving, and things like this podcast wouldn't be possible. So we obviously use the funds to fund this podcast, the other podcasts we have, our open source projects like CommandBox, ForgeBox, ColdBox, ContentBox, TestBox, and all the other boxes, and all the continuous development they need. So yeah, I mean, looking at the numbers in the keynote about ForgeBox and how many requests we've had with that, you can see that a lot of the costs go towards our cloud infrastructure too.
Yeah, we've got to pay for all those downloads in S3, man.
Yeah. The crazy thing is now we know when ForgeBox is down because everybody tells us. That's one thing about being the center of everybody's build process, right?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what pushed us to go, to a more robust. We always had a load balance setup server with Docker, but when the host server went down, everybody started to be like, our builds just crashed, and that's when we had to push ourselves into DigitalOcean, the Swarm, and more redundancies.
Yeah,
kind of funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, we stepped it up. So yeah, but let's give a rundown of all these.
Who's doing the names?
I'll do it.
Didn't I do them last time?
Yep. My turn. So, thank you, Ben Adele, Brett Deline, Dali, Dan Codd, Daniel Garcia, David Ballinger, Dadia Lesnicki, Don Bellamy, Eric Hoffman, Gary Knight, Jan Yannick, Jeremy Adams, Jonas Eriksson, Jordan Clark, Joseph Lamory, Kai Koenig, Laxma Terahadi, Matthew Clemente, Mingo Hagen, Ryan Hughes, Scott Steinbeck, Sean Oden, Stephen Klotz, Synatrix, and Yogesh Mithira. So,
all right.
Yep, it's a great list there, and like I said, we're almost at 50% fully funded for our podcast. So, of course, Ortus Solutions is fitting the rest of the bill, and we appreciate that. If you'd like to sponsor us too, you can go to patreon.com/OrtusSolutions and find a package that suits you, and we'll add you to this list of amazing people.
$1 million.
It's not quite that high, but we have a few.
I think we'd take it. I'm sure there's a free text area in Patreon.
Pay what you like, as long as it's over this.
Heck, I'd take the taxes off $1 million.
Yeah.
Stick it in a Roth IRA and just give us the taxes. Or not the taxes, the interest.
Yeah. Well, if you want to find out more about who's our sponsors are, you can also go to ordersolutions.com/about/sponsors. Man, I can't speak this week. It's not a good time for a conference.
It's been a long podcast, hasn't it? Yeah, I'm gonna say you gotta figure out how to talk with your conference talks coming up.
I only have 3 sessions and a chunk of a keynote, so it's not too bad.
I'm pre-recording all mine. I heard that's what everybody does these days. All the cool kids.
I'll just play Luis's from last year. Just see
put like a voice modulator so it like lowers his voice a bit or changes it. Like I don't think that's really Gavin talking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been a good week. It's been a busy week, and we've still got lots to go. Hopefully, we'll see all of you virtually at Into the Box on Thursday and Friday. Otherwise, the rest of you, have a great fun working, and we'll catch you next week.
Adios, everyone.
Bye. Show notes for this episode can be found at cfmlnews.modernizeordie.io, where you can also subscribe to your favorite podcast player like Spotify or iTunes. We also have the link to YouTube to find more videos just like this. The music used in this podcast is under a royalty-free license from Sound.com and Blue Tree Audio.